So basically, all of the COVID money that's been passed in the last, since this time or earlier last year, in February of last year, they basically said, oh, this is all an emergency. We're not going to pay for this. We're just going to deficit spend. And I think it's probably closer to 6 trillion than it was 5 trillion. But, it clearly is an astronomical sum that we've declared an emergency, and we've spent to address the pandemic and the economic downturn that occurred as a result of the pandemic. And the notion was, well, this is an emergency, and we're not going to try to pay for it. We're just going to deficit spend. So, the irony is that now that we're sort of, hoping that we see the light at the end of the COVID tunnel, we're going to get back to normal, and then therefore normal rules should apply. The idea is that, well, this bipartisan infrastructure bill is going to be paid for. But what they've proposed to do in large part is to pay for it by not spending the deficit spending money that they appropriated for COVID. So in other words, they're saying, well, we're going to take this money that we didn't pay for and not spend it on the COVID things, the emergency things, and we're going to spend it on the non-emergency things. So it's a little, I guess, ironic that, they're using money that was clearly deficit spending to now say, well, we're going to use that as a pay for to offset the bipartisan infrastructure bill.
That's at a sort of a global level with the pandemic money, but another question is whether that money would ever have been spent.
Well, right, yeah, that's actually where I was going next.
Okay.
Was that that raises the question, and in fact, I mean, this highlights one of the pay-fors in the infrastructure bill. There's a section on unemployment insurance, and the way the section is written, it essentially says, well, it looks like things were not as bad as we originally thought, and therefore the extended unemployment benefits are not going to cost as much as we thought. And in addition to that, from an economic perspective, there are also a number of governors, largely in Republican states, who are saying, well, we're going to end these, the extra $300 unemployment benefits. Those were scheduled to go through September. And now some of the states are saying we're going to end them sooner, because we're hearing from small businesses who are saying they're having trouble getting workers because these $300 checks are encouraging people not to vigorously look for new jobs. And so, they're ending the money sooner, or ending the unemployment benefits sooner. So the question is, if that money wasn't going to get spent, is it really a pay for to spend money that wouldn't have been spent under the original appropriations? And so, yeah, it does raise the question, from two perspectives, whether these are really pay fors, because it's deficit spending if it was going to be spent, and it's not really spending if it wasn't going to be spent. So therefore, spending it is new deficit spending, not an offset of prior deficit spending. So yeah, it gets a little confusing, and it's a little, I think a little suspect in terms of being what has traditionally been viewed as an actual pay for, and that is taking a program that is going to spend and saving the money and then using that as an offset. So anyway, yeah, it's a little different than what we've seen in the past.